Okay, so today we're going to make homemade ice cream without a machine, at least not an ice cream maker. So that's what we're about to do. And what I have here is absolutely everything you're going to need to make the ice cream, except for the chest freezer that we're going to store it in. The first thing up front is our ingredients. First, we have a liter of whole milk. We have 6 eggs. We have actually a little under a cup of sugar. It's just under a cup. And then our vanilla extract. And then we're going to use just a little pinch, small amount of instant coffee, and then just a pinch of salt. Now, if you're questioning why would you have coffee and salt in ice cream, the coffee actually, as long as it's a small amount, actually helps bring out the vanilla, the flavor in the vanilla. If you put a little bit more than what we're going to put in, it actually begins to give it a caramel taste. Then, of course, if you're into coffee ice cream, then you would put more than that. But right now, all we're doing is bringing out the flavor in the vanilla. So that's the purpose for that. And then the salt, it's just a pinch of salt, but the purpose for that is that it gives it a little bit of a richer flavor. So that's our ingredients, just 6 ingredients. Again, the whole milk, eggs, sugar, vanilla extract, or coffee, and a little bit of salt. Now in the back we have the kitchen items we're going to need to make it. First is just a cooking pan. This is about a 1.5 liter cooking pan, and I have a spoon for stirring and a fork for mixing, which you'll see in a little bit. I have a mixing bowl that we're going to use here, and then the measuring spoons. Here I have a large cooking pan. The reason for this is that I'm going to be freezing the custard, the ice cream custard that we're going to make. I'm going to be freezing it up quickly. I'll be putting this in a chest freezer and then pouring small amounts over the surface into this large pan while it's in the chest freezer, and that will cause it to freeze quickly along the surface of the bottom of the pan. So anyway, that's why I have all the items that we've got here. So that's what we'll be using. Okay, the first thing we want to do is separate our eggs. So we're going to just crack 6 eggs into a bowl, and then I'll separate them. Obviously you want to have clean hands when you go, whoops, just broke that one, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one out now. If you break a yolk, you want to go ahead and take it out and get it out quickly. And then I'm just going to sit here with my clean hands, separate the yolks. You don't have to get absolutely all the egg whites, but you want to get the egg yolks. That's what we're going to be using, okay? One thing is the egg whites, while we're not using them for this recipe, you may want to use them for something else, because that way it actually helps reduce your overall cost in making your ice cream. Of course, you can make bread or whatever with that, but it doesn't go in the ice cream, just for information. Okay, now we want to add our cup of sugar. And this is slightly under a cup, more than 3/4 of a cup, but then we just blend this. Your 1 cup of sugar and your 6 egg yolks. Okay. And I'll come back and blend that some more, but anyway, you're going to keep blending this until it starts to kind of turn like almost like a yellowish color, not so much orange, but it starts turning like a light orange or kind of a little bit of a yellow color. All right, now we're going to add our 1 liter of whole milk. You can also use just raw cow's milk, so it would be really good. We used to do that in Ecuador. Also in Ecuador, we use different products. Now I'm going to add the vanilla. And the vanilla, you need about a tablespoon of vanilla. Okay, now we're going to add our coffee. You don't want much of this instant coffee. You're just trying to bring out the taste in the vanilla. So usually I would say about 1/3 of a teaspoon. This is a half a teaspoon measurement, so I'm going to make sure it's a good bit under. And we're just going to add the coffee in there. Okay, so now I'm going to have about 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt. So now we got our whole milk, our vanilla, and our coffee. I'm now going to turn on my heat, and you want to do this really over a medium heat, not real high, but not low either. One thing you don't want to do is scorch your milk. Okay, so this does require us to stir this pretty regularly while it's heating up. At first, what we want to do is just get the milk warm enough to absorb all of our sugar and our eggs. Then I'm going to come back while that's heating up a little bit and stir this some more. You'll see it kind of turn more of kind of a little bit lighter color, not so dark orange, but more of like a lighter orange or a dark yellow. All we're trying to do right now is get the milk warm enough to blend in with the eggs and the sugar. So as long as it's warm or hot to the touch, we're ready to go. Right now it's still a little bit cool. Once you kind of, just touch the milk and it's kind of warm or hot to the touch, and you're ready to go to the next step here, and we're just going to blend this milk into our egg and sugar mix. So while we're stirring, we want to start pouring in the egg or the milk and stir it in at the same time. Once we can tell we don't hear any kind of sugar crystal sound or whatever, once we have all that blended in really well, then we're going to pour it right back into our pot. And this pot again is a cooking pot of about a liter and a half. So once I add my 1 liter milk now mixed with my sugar and my eggs, it certainly can handle the amount that we need. And I put this back onto the medium heat. And this is going to take probably a good 10 minutes for it to heat to the level it needs. And this is the critical part here. What happens is, again, you don't want to scorch the milk. And I don't use a thermometer here. What I do is I just watch actually the surface. If you look at the surface of your custard mix, there will be kind of a white top to it. When you stir it, you'll see the white part kind of move out of the way and go away, but eventually that white coating that's kind of over the top of the surface will actually begin to go away. When that starts to go away, also at the same time, the smell, it'll start to take on a little bit of a different smell. You'll smell the eggs cooking in it, and it actually becomes slightly thicker. So you just have to go through this process, but you have to continue to stir it probably a good 10 minutes or so. Again, this is a liter portion. If you did a larger amount, it would take a little bit longer. If you try to do a half liter, obviously it'd go a little quicker, and it'd be more important to make sure that you don't scorch your milk. But as long as you have it on medium heat and you're stirring it continuously, you should be fine. But you really want to watch it once this white top goes away, because shortly after that you want to get it off the heat, and then we'll pour it back into our mixing pot. I don't know if you can see this or not, but the white topping, our lighting is a little yellow, so it might be hard to see, but it's starting to go away. The thickness of it is getting, you can tell it's getting a little creamier or thicker, and there's also a smell to it. If you got down there and smelled it, you can actually smell the obvious change in the aroma of the eggs with them cooking. So now is about the time, right after that, all that white stuff starts to go away and it gets thicker, to go ahead and get it off the heat. You don't want to overcook it and cause the milk to separate. And once we got the heat off, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pour some of it into my mixing bowl to kind of go ahead and separate a little bit of it, maybe about 1/3 of it, to go ahead and start cooling so I can get ready to try to freeze it up. We're going to go ahead and add our large cooking pan to our chest freezer. What we want to do is get this pan good and cold at the surface, and we use this spatula simply to stir our ice cream once it's ready. But right now we're just going to cool the pan down, and I'm also going to bring in here my custard mix to let it start cooling down. And once it's cool, I'll pour it over the surface of the pan. So that's how we cool it or freeze it quickly. The thing with ice cream is you have to either continually stir it or you have to freeze it quickly. And in this case, we're going to freeze it quickly. Once you have ice cream, you can take a cooled down custard and simply stir it into the ice cream you already have. But since we're starting from scratch, we're going to use this pan to cool it quickly. Okay, now that my custard mix that I put in the bowl has cooled down, it's still above room temperature, but cooled down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the freezer. I'll wait for a good 30 minutes or so. Once that's gotten chilled, then I can pour it over the surface of my pan to get it to freeze right away. It's actually taken about an hour, but it looks like our custard mix that we're getting in our freezer is just starting to freeze on the outside edge. And that's how you know that it's ready to be poured. We're going to go ahead and pour some of this into our pan. I'm just going to pour it all in there. I had probably about 1/3 of a liter, and I'll just put this in the bottom. And then we're going to just kind of spread this out over the surface, and I can tell right away that it's already starting to freeze to the surface. And that's what you want. You want it to freeze immediately, so it doesn't have time to form ice crystals. It just has a kind of a creamy ice cream. So it's freezing immediately on the surface, which is good. Okay, so we'll just let that set, and then we'll pour some more. So we have our next little bit of custard. We're going to pour in about another, I don't know, about half of that, and just mix it in. Once you have some of this already froze up, it's easier to get the rest of it to the freeze quicker. So you don't have to use a big pan like this if you already have some ice cream frozen up. You can just stir it straight into the ice cream that you already have. But of course, again, when you're starting from scratch, this is the way you have to do it to get it to freeze up really quick. It's getting kind of late here for me tonight, so what I did with the rest of the custard, about 1/3 of a liter, is I just poured it into a bowl and put it in the refrigerator, and I'll mix it up tomorrow. But I'll finish up this last bit here in just a few minutes. But anyway, this will be about 2/3 of the liter we're making. And again, tomorrow I'll just finish up the last bit. Last night I transferred all of the slushy ice cream from the large pan into the mixing bowl. And once you have ice cream, you don't need the large pan to freeze more. All we have to do now is mix it straight into the ice cream we have. As long as you have kind of like a starter, if you will, or you have some ice cream, then you can mix in your custard directly, and you don't have to have the big pan, because the ice cream that you have will freeze it up quickly. I kept some in this bowl overnight in the refrigerator, so I didn't freeze up all of my custard. Normally you'll just be able to mix it straight in, as long as you already have some already frozen up. So that's what I'll do now, is just stir this in and let it freeze up. You just want to basically get it slushy. You don't want to add too much of your custard mix at one time, because if you add too much, then you'll turn your ice cream back into a liquid, and then you're having to stir it constantly to get it slushy. What you don't want to do is try to freeze it as a liquid form and without constant stirring, which of course is more work. So that's why you either need a really cold surface like the pan, or you need some other ice cream to mix it with to get it to freeze quickly. So once it's slushy, then you don't have to stir it all the time, and you can just let it freeze up on its own. But you just don't want like a big ice crystal inside there. That's the whole key to making ice cream, is getting it to freeze quickly into like a little slushy texture, and then you're good to go. So we're about there here. I can put this back in the freezer. We're finished up, and we have a portion of ice cream that Ella is going to taste test for us. The only thing we're going to add, it's good in and of itself, but we're going to add a little bit of our cherry flavor topping. Again, the ice cream, a lot of times we'll eat it just by itself, but it's even better with a little bit of cherry topping. All right, let's see what our ice cream connoisseur test taker thinks. Taste test, pass the test. Alrighty, so she's going to enjoy the rest of her ice cream. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and this is a good vanilla, just a basic vanilla ice cream that you can make at home and is really delicious.